So here we are coming to you again from the live streams channel Thailand on YouTube. My name is Warren and this is Dr. William Waite. Um, for those of you who have been watching, I hope you like what you see. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to continue doing our Clubhouse, which is on Friday nights in the U.S. I think it's 8 p.m. Pacific.
Right.
And yeah, so before we get into today's topic, our videos number 1 and number 4 kind of detail the streams, the actual streams part of the live streams, the 4 quadrants and how we experience those. And video 2 focuses on creating the self-image, what they call the historical self-image, and the role of culture in that. And so today we're talking about the present-centered self. And I'm glad you came up with it with that descriptor, because a couple of years ago you were talking about the self and the self-image, and I kept confusing myself in the notes because I had no idea what you were talking about. And so two things, looking at that now, were sort of bugging me. And so, like, one thing was, what's the difference between saying the self-image and the self, which now we're calling the present-centered self? And the second part of that is, at that point in the conversation, why was I always rushing to create a dichotomy as if the self-image was something that was opposed to the real self?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, maybe you could start by sort of tracing the development of a person.
Yeah, okay, so the self-image is our social self. I'm William. I have these things that I identify with. I probably have a bunch of things also that I disidentify with. So this is my presentation. Hi, I'm William. I'm this old. I'm this and this and this. And that's all real. It's all true. That's my historical identity. If we trace that back, I didn't have that in the beginning. I came out this little bundle of energy, and my parents decided I was going to be a William. You're going to be a Warren. We're not Williams and Warrens at that point. We're just energy. We're just awareness. As we go through our lives, as we're given that handle again and again and again, and we're going through experiences where we're being taught that I'm a William. As I go through the emotionality in my life, I can be a good William or a bad William. But all the time I'm becoming more and more William. Then I gain more intellectual functioning and more identity psychologically and culturally. And I become that much more of a William. So my interactions with my family first, and then the people around me. And William does this, William doesn't do this, William likes this, William doesn't like this. And at a certain point, usually pre-teens, I really start getting a strong sense of Williamness. This is who I am. And then I go through my teen years and all the difficulties and excitement of those times up until about 23 or 24. And about that time, there's a whole bunch of neurological things that happen, and there's a stability that occurs. So around that time, I really have a solid sense of William. Now that's going to change over time because of the environment, but at that point, I can really say, I am who I am, kind of thing.
These are my beliefs.
This is my identity, and my beliefs are part of it, my feelings are part of it. So we have that, and there we are. And depending on what your experience has been throughout your life, say the thing that you and I have been talking about is having experiences that were outside of the norm. So somehow I was conditioned to see myself differently than all the rest of the other kids on the block, say, or the kids that I was around. So I got a sense of feeling outside. And that at that point, that was a very painful experience. And yet if we fast forward, it's that outsider that gives us the potential to say, first to stop and look around and say, oh, what's happening around here? For me, it's like uh, graduating in 1959 and looking into the world and seeing all this struggle and strife and saying, what's going on? Most people at that point were saying, well, what's going on is this, and these are the good guys and these are the bad guys. So I create that split in the world. I'm a good guy, you're a bad guy. You're a good guy, I'm a bad guy. It doesn't really matter, but I've split the world in half at that point.
And what allows or what directs a person to do that is the filter that they've created, or that's been created, that they've taken part in learning and creating.
Right.
That's the historical self-image.
That's it. Yeah.
So one thing that I want to make sure that I toss in here, because we were talking about travel, and my idea initially about travel was that somehow I was less than I was going to become. There were that self-image, since it was my identity. My idea about travel was that I was going to gather experiences and meet new people, and that it would add something to who I am. And so, and one of the premises of life streams is that I'm a whole person all the time, and that thinking that I had was the self-image limiting the whole person.
Exactly, and that's what happens. I mean, that's what acculturation is. It's not a bad thing. Because it's a necessary tool that we have to be able to move through life, but it's always partial, because every culture molds itself in a particular way with its values, with its worldview. So you move out of the culture and you move into other cultures that have a different value system, and you either react against that and you make that bad, or you respond to it and you assimilate some of it. So we've talked about being outside of our cultures and going back into our cultures, and some of the difficulty and some of the estrangement in trying to relate to people who have been just monocultural, and they haven't been out of the culture. So when I start talking about X, it's not part of their experience, and they kind of glaze over or whatever.
And also to the extent of being able to confront difference, and to still kind of think that there's some advantages to my approach, or the way that I look at things, or my value system, but to just to allow the other to exist. It's right. Like it doesn't immediately suggest that to remain me, I've got to vanquish
So
what's outside my experience.
A lot of people do that, but you don't have to. You can incorporate rather than vanquish. And then what happens is you get to a point of recognizing the fluidity both of yourself and of other people, also the rigidities of both yourself and other people. Then we get to this place where I would say the beginning of life streams happens. It's like, okay, here we are. And, that's kind of a
cliche.
Exactly. And at the same time, it's a definition of us in such a deep, complete way that it's nothing less than revolutionary. So what happens when I really say, okay, here I am totally, rather than here I am as a self-image? As a self-image, I'm bringing in all of my likes and my dislikes and all of the things that have been part of the molding of this partial identity. Now, I don't want to give those things up. I can't give them up. They're my history. But it's the difference between sitting here in the present in terms of the present, rather than in terms of my historical definition or the self-image.
We talk about this in terms of how unusual it is for people who feel pretty comfortable or comfortably enough assimilated into the culture or the worldview that they're functioning in, that it only happens to people, that if it ever happens as a result of some sort of life-altering occurrence,
Yeah.
some event or some tragedy or a death or a divorce or some or something, an injury or some sort of thing that creates what you refer to when you talk about the Chinese kanji for the word crisis, the danger and the opportunity.
Right. So I'm just thinking about it, and all of the people that I know in my life, the one event that a great deal of people go through is puppy love. That first person that you fall in love with, and it's just, she's so beautiful, and she's so wonderful, or he, if it's a he. And that expansiveness and just that fullness that we feel. Now that's based on a fantasy, but the experience, the energetic experience, is part of who we are. And that love that we experience in that kind of young childish way is part of who we are. We are love. And in the here and now, I can allow myself to move into that love. I don't need to have an object because it's my love. There'll be somebody I love, there are people I love, but it's my love, and it's total. And it's the same thing with all the feelings. So in the here and now, I bring everything to the table, not just the self-image. The self-image comes along with it, but it's more of a tool that I can utilize rather than my totality. Now the difference is, when I'm relating to people through my self-image, I'm relating to them historically. So I've got all these filters from the past on who they are. I can't really see them because it's like their mom and dad and the guy that beat me up in the second grade, and just all these memories that are filtering and distorting the here and now. So when I'm in my self-image, I'm in reaction. If I move out of it, if I can really embody my totality in the moment, I'm in response.
So this begins to clear up a bit. It was the process of my self-image, trying to deal with the idea of a present-centered self, and so it seemed to me that at the very least, if the self-image is some sort of challenge or some sort of problem, again, it's almost kind of that pathological approach. It's like, well, I've got to be able to shed it so that my ego boundary can completely dissolve and I can become one with the universe or whatever. But this suggests to me now that that another possibility, or the possibility and perhaps advantage of moving into the present-centered self, is that tool of the self-image. I recognize it for what it is. It's a part of me.
Yeah, and it's a tool that remains, that can be utilized when it's necessary. But to use it unconsciously, reactively, means that you're not going to be totally in the experience. And all of us move, even if we're working on this, we move in and out. The self-image comes up and, I'm trapped in this way of looking right now. Let me breathe in. Let me be here in terms of here, rather than here in terms of my old definitions and my old values and my old belief systems.
William often begins and ends each conversation that we have by reminding me, and so I'll remind all of us, here we are in our wholeness.